Welcome to Ring Talk, the weekly Goodwin boxing show, although it's not quite been weekly of late due to some technical issues. Episode 13, version 3, hopefully this time we'll get through any of the problems that we've previously had. New microphone on board, so hopefully it'll all go swimmingly. Along with Steve Goodwin. And then we're going to take a couple of weeks off while you go and cruise around the Caribbean.
Yeah, but I will be watching the O2 bill.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it costs to get the internet on the bloody cruise ship?
No.
250 quid.
For how long?
10 days.
That's extortion.
And you can't buy it by the day. So 250 quid, I want to watch obviously we'll talk about this in a minute, even more reason I want to watch the O2 show. But it's going to cost me 250 quid to get Wi-Fi.
That's the most expensive pay-per-view
I've ever made in my life. Unbelievable.
But you've got a vested interest that we'll talk about.
Yeah, so I've got to watch it, and I have to watch it, so therefore that's how it goes. But I will be watching the boxing over there.
Excellent. Right, so we'll crack on with, we're going to take a look at the new fighters as part of the Goodwin stable. So a number.
We've got 3 to announce today. There's going to be some more that we're just in the finalisation of signing. I think we're going to have quite a few to discuss when I'm back, which will be, the next one will be in 3 weeks' time. I think we have 2 weeks off. And there will be plenty to discuss there. So, but the 3 we're going to announce today are one that's out in the public domain, Cruiserweight, who we are so excited about, Dion Juma. Not only is Dion a potential star of the division, I think he, without doubt, is British champion and beyond.
Yeah.
What we've also found is that he's been allocated to the show on March the 3rd.
Oh, okay.
He's huge following. And I thought one of the negatives with Dion would be, he's super talented, but he is he's
done well.
He's doing really well. So the fact that I have a really good guy who's built up a good following and somebody that talented means the world's our oyster.
Because it's high calibre, isn't it? I mean, for those that don't know of Dion, he's an ex-Sauerlands fighter.
8-0.
Taking a bit of time out of the ring.
GB squad.
Yeah. So it's not, this isn't somebody who's going to muck around. He can be moved on within reason once he's back into the swing of...
But he's also going to be a TV promoter's dream as well. So it's going to be a case, I believe, with Dion of getting him moved on, a couple of fights, get him back in there, get him to his 10th fight, then start picking up titles, and then start getting him on TV. So, it's a great fighter for us to be associated with. I'm delighted to be managing him for the next 3 years, and I think we're going to do some really great things with Dion.
So if you've already got tickets for March the 3rd, you'll get a treat there. You're going
to see the return of Dion Juma, and the card's great anyway, but Dion Juma being on it is fantastic. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is a really exciting lad from Islington, won 4 junior ABAs. As I've been saying on social, a guy called Louis Isaacs, really good talent to watch. Yeah. As I've been saying on social media lately, we're increasing the quality. We are increasing numbers, but we are increasing quality. And quality is really important to us because we want champions. Yeah. And Louis Isaacs will definitely be a champion. He's out on the 10th of March. He's on the 10th of March show. So we're delighted for Louis from Islington, and he's a very young lad.
He's a young lad, isn't he?
Young lad and he's going to make big strides, and another champion in the making. Yeah. And finally, we all have a heavyweight. This is a special heavyweight. He's the son of Don Charles. His name is George Chiddy Fox. Don Charles says he's going to be a world champion. He says that his son is going to follow the footsteps of Derek Chisora, but obviously Derek Chisora fought for the world title. Yeah. Although his career's not over yet, we will discuss that in a minute. He believes his son is going to win a world title, and once again, I'm delighted to be managing George Fox, and he's going to be out in May, and we're really excited about him as well.
So he's got the ideal breeding ground, obviously, with his old man being Don Charles, having all that set up around him. I guess he lives it and breathes it day to day.
And I think he's 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
He's got all the attributes. He's got a great boxing style. He's got power. He's got a really great ring brain. He's really going to be exciting to watch. I can't wait to get him out. We're talking about 3 kids there. There is no way that unless something goes wrong with him, all those 3 kids are going to win major titles.
Yeah.
And this is what we're aiming for, and this is what we're developing. And there's a lot of kids out there who should win major titles who don't, because of bad management and bad strategy and bad everything else. Our lads, I don't feel we've ever had a fighter that should have won a title and hasn't.
That hasn't fulfilled that potential.
I don't think we've got one that's not fulfilled their potential. From our point of view, we've done our job where we haven't done our job, and these 3 guys I'm so excited about. And there's some more in the pipeline equally as talented who are going to do great things that we're going to talk more about on the next show. So that's 3 great fighters for all of you to put in your notebooks.
So when do we see George Fox?
George Fox will be May time.
Right.
I think he will make into a TV fighter, so it may well be that I think his debut could well be on a TV platform.
Okay.
May well be on our platform. We'll see. I mean, he's not fussed, but I want the best for him. I mean, Don Charles, who obviously his dad, has been a great supporter of mine since I started out in boxing in 2010.
Yeah.
He's done everything for me, and I've got the utmost respect for Don Charles, and it's his son. I will do everything for him that I possibly can.
Yeah. Excellent. So we're going to move on to some of the fights that have been announced, and some that you'll be announcing now, I guess, that probably haven't gone out to the wider public yet.
So, should we start off with one of our fighters, a young man of 22, who has decided that he wants to go in deep. And again, is it a hard ask? Yes. Does he want to have the opportunity to showcase himself? Yes. So after having the discussion, we've allowed him to do it. Jordan Joseph, who's 7-1-1 at 22, is going to go in with Joshua Buatsi.
It doesn't get much deeper than that, does it?
On the 3rd of February.
You talk about kind of blue chip prospects and
yeah.
But Jordan, for people out there that haven't seen Jordan, lovely boxer, great technician. And I don't think I've ever seen somebody, maybe Luke Watkins is the only exception, somebody as cool in the ring, somebody that just, if you look at their eyes when they're boxing, they could be anywhere. They don't necessarily have to be in a boxing ring. He's very chilled out, very relaxed. He could cause Joshua Buatsi problems that Joshua's never had before.
I think he's the best opponent Joshua's faced. I mean, he's been war managing sparring, obviously Frank Buglioni, George Groves. He's been getting some real top class sparring in.
Yeah.
And whatever the result, let me tell you, he's not going there to make the numbers up. You will see in that fight, if you're watching this, you will see Jordan doing his best to win, which is going to be totally different than most of the guys that go in to survive. Jordan is going in there to try and win, and as long, and I feel that his stock, if he puts up a great performance, win, lose or draw, and obviously he feels he's got a chance of winning, and even he's a really decent fighter. He has in the past been a bit lazy at times, but this is not a fight he can be lazy in. He has to, if he's going to win a round, he's got to win it clearly, because Jordan could win every round and lose every round 60-54 for obvious reasons. So he will be trying his best, and I think it's a fight worth watching, because you're going to have a young kid of 22 who's going to go on Sky, who's going to give everything that he can, and he's going to be going for the upset, or at the very least to make everybody out there watching think that kid's got a future. Because at 22, even if he lost to Buatsi but put up a great show, he's still going to go and pick up titles this year and move on.
Yeah.
But he's going to go there and try and actually win rounds and work round by round and try and win the fight. He's going to try and cause one of the biggest shocks. And he's going to go for it.
And it's the biggest platform he's ever had in many ways. The biggest opponent, biggest TV network, biggest arena at the O2. Everything about it is going to be new to Jordan, so he's going to have to adapt very quickly, get in there and
the other day, he only had 8 amateur fights.
Yeah.
So he's had 8 amateurs, 9 professionals.
And at 22 he's fought for the Southern Area title, he's won the Eliminator in his last fight out.
He deserves the opportunity, he wants to do it. And let's be really realistic about this, and we always talk honestly. We all know Jordan is not the biggest ticket seller in the world.
Yeah.
And fighting off TV and not being the biggest ticket seller in the world is very difficult. It's a slightly more difficult process than if you have somebody that is a massive ticket seller.
Yeah.
And so therefore you've got to be real that in terms of what he wants to do, and when an opportunity comes up, this can fast track him.
Yeah.
If he managed to cause one of the biggest upsets seen in boxing, British boxing, then there's a massive opportunity out there for him.
Yeah.
So I think realistically it's a no-lose fight for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure he's in the gym working harder than ever before, knowing that that's around the corner.
And he's a lovely family, lovely kid, deserves the opportunity, and I'll be hoping he can spring up that upset. But I'm telling you that they are going there with confidence. They're not going there to make the numbers up. So it's going to be a great fight, and that's why I'm paying 250 quid.
So that's February the 3rd on the undercard of Chamberlain versus Okoli, Who you got?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I really am not sure. If you had Tom Gunnerman, I'd say Okoli. I think, I've got to say, I wasn't impressed with Isaac when he fought Wadi Camacho. I wasn't impressed with Isaac when he fought Ozzy Jervier. So I haven't been that impressed with him. So I think, on what I've seen, an Olympian beats him. That's what I think. I think Okoli is a level above him, but of other people who are in the know don't disagree with me, so I'm going to sort of fence it. But if you had to hold a gun to bed, I think Lawrence wins. What do you think?
Well, I've seen Lawrence, and he's not had it all his own way. So it was Blaise Menduo that he fought York Hall, wasn't it? And Blaise, it was almost in playful mode with him. And like, as soon as those massive bombs from Okolie didn't land, then he didn't have a plan B. And I just think as long as Isaac can in some way mitigate those bombs, whether it's covering, whether it's sharper movement, because he's a very good slipper of shots.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Isaac, if he can in some way for 3-4 rounds frustrate Okolie to the point where he needs to look for a plan B that isn't necessarily there, then I think Isaac can win it on points. But if it goes past 3, I'd pick Isaac on points.
But I don't think Isaac. I think, to be fair with Isaac, I've seen people land on him and nothing's happened.
Yeah, and I mean,
it looks like he's got a great chin.
He's been out sparring Usyk, Mike Perez.
Well, I don't think Lawrence Okolie gets him out of there that easy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see, because at some point he's going to get hit. He'll get.
Well, I actually, and I say this before, I fancy Arfan Iqbal to knock out Lawrence Okolie.
Yeah, no,
I genuinely believe Arfan Iqbal would knock out Lawrence Okolie.
Yeah.
I actually think he knocks out Isaac Chamberlain as well. And I mean, Isaac, to be honest, took the Okolie fight. It's the right management move, but Isaac, as you know, turned down the Arfan Iqbal fight. He was offered that for the English title and didn't want it. Rightfully so, because I think Isaac's got. It sounds crazy me saying this, but I think Isaac's got a better chance of beating Lawrence Okolie than he has beating Arfan Iqbal.
Well, I think Isaac, certainly Okolie probably isn't as well schooled as Iqbal at the moment. Maybe in 5-10 fights time, that's a different scenario.
Yeah,
but at the moment, all we've seen of Okolie is someone that goes in and smashes people, but. He's like a slightly skinnier Deontay Wilder at times. That there's an awful lot of power. The technique perhaps isn't quite refined. I think if Isaac can work that out early enough, get his time in, get his space, I think he'll cause problems.
But I'm looking forward to the fight, and again, full credit to both boxers and Freddie Hearn for making that fight. That's not a bad little card to start off the season. And I think that's really good for boxing that we're seeing fights like this.
And on a side note to that, I mean, I'm quite critical of the work of Eddie Hearn a lot of the time on social media, but what a fantastic start to 2017. So the likes of Lucas Brown, who you were with the other weekend, Dillian White, the likes of the Kell Brook fight, Amir Khan coming back, this fight coming up with Okolie and Chamberlain. I'm sure I'm missing some as well, but it's a fantastic start for British boxing.
Well, Tommy Coyle and Sean Dodd, I think it's a great fight.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really good fights, and Fred Buglioni, Callum Johnson's a good fight. If Joe Gallagher doesn't block it. We can discuss that later on.
Yeah, I wonder if Isaiah Burton's training anywhere. Maybe.
Very possibly.
But I mean, it is a great start. On top of that, obviously, you've got the AJ Parker stuff.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant for British boxing that it gets people interested and it's started well. Yeah,
so full credit to him. So Jordan's on the undercard. That's the main thing of that fight. We'll tune in on February the 3rd.
That's the main event. That's the real main event.
Let's hope Jordan can cause the upset. But I'm looking forward to the Okolie Chamberlain as well. But obviously, Jordan's gonna, and I've known him since he was a baby. So let's hope he can go in there and do himself justice.
Yeah. Next fight.
Next fight I want to talk about is Miles Shinkwin. Miles Shinkwin, who everybody wrote off after he lost to Jake Ball. Jake Ball, worthy winner. Miles Shinkwin
didn't turn up. He didn't perform.
He felt that the style of Jake Ball is just wrong for him, and he doesn't think he'd beat Jake Ball if he fought him again.
Is that the lengthy southpaw?
Yeah, he said he just found it difficult, and he just thinks that Jake Ball's style has got his number. That's how it is. And I think
that's fair enough.
But after, I remember in the dressing room saying, "Don't worry, I've got this thing sorted out for you." And now we can announce that he's going to fight Liam Conway for the English title. So it's. People say, how have we done that? But it doesn't really matter. Again, we've delivered for our fighter, and Miles will be He has to go away for it, go to Preston, but we believe he beats Liam Conway, no matter whether it's in Preston, Timbuktu or London. We think Miles we think Liam Conway is made for Miles, and I think Miles will become English champion at the end of March. We have got respect for Liam, but I think Miles beats him. And then Miles is basically back in there again.
Yeah.
So delighted to announce that for Miles.
Because certainly, I mean, we'll go on to Frank Buglioni, but if Frank wins against Callum Johnson, if he wins that, he gets the belt outright, presumably may or may not look to drop the belt, and then it opens it up for someone like Miles, if he wins the English title, that he could get into that frame again.
Exactly. So the next one is obviously Frank, who's fighting Callum Johnson. What I would suggest, Callum, sack your manager if you can, because, I think you should sack his manager. he deserves to be fired. Because, look, you're a manager with a mandatory contender for Frank Buglioni.
Yeah.
This mandatory contender was a top-level amateur, Commonwealth gold, deserves the backing of his manager, right? All his manager wants to talk about is Hosea Burton fighting Frank Buglioni.
Agreed.
It's a disgrace.
Agreed.
Joe Gallagher should be fired by Callum Johnson. And if you're watching Joe, you deserve to be sacked. And that is my honest, true belief. Back Callum Johnson. If I was Callum Johnson, I would be absolutely disgusted that I'm not getting the backing of my manager. Why are you talking about Hosea Burton, who's not even in line to Frank Buglioni? You should be saying, I'm backing Callum Johnson, he's going to beat Frank Buglioni, I want Callum Johnson, I've got faith in. Put posts up about the fighter that's fighting.
And it's not even just it's the manager, he's also his trainer. Apparently he's his trainer. Yeah, he trains in Lincoln some of the time.
But I mean, that's just appalling. So Callum Johnson, apparently, I've never met Callum. He's apparently a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Frank Buglioni has the ultimate respect for Callum Johnson. But like Frank says, what on earth is going on in his camp when you have his manager behaving like that?
Yeah.
Disgraceful. Hosea Burton shouldn't even be mentioned at the moment. Maybe Hosea will get his chance down the line, right? But at the moment, it's not Hosea Burton, it's Callum Johnson. And hopefully, we don't get Callum Johnson derailed by an injury with Hosea Burton to step in and that sort of stuff. And maybe that's what Joe's plan is, I don't know. But the point is, for Callum Johnson, he's not getting the backing, the social media backing he deserves. And if I was him, I'd feel like I was being treated like a second-rate citizen.
But I mean, especially after the last fight, when Callum Johnson pulled out through injury very late notice, and Hosea Burton happened to be on weight and available.
I know, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, I'm not suggesting anything other than a mere coincidence that Hosea Burton was on weight available
7 days before.
7 days before that fight. Yeah, I'm not suggesting anything whatsoever, but you know, and then for them to cry about it afterwards was, well, what do you think? You know, Frank has to prepare for Callum Johnson. And you know, like stepping somebody in who's prepared for Frank, presumably, if that was the case, hypothetically.
Well, I said hypothetically. We were told 2 weeks before the pullout that this was being planned.
Yeah.
We were told. We didn't believe that anybody would be so cunning and conniving to do something like this, and maybe they weren't. But we were told 2 weeks before that, watch for the switch.
Yeah.
So, from our point of view, and we know that Callum was injured, and we know that things weren't right. What we don't know is whether they knew that 2 weeks before and delayed the pullout.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe, potentially, by the information we've received,
hypothetically might have happened. But that's going to take place on the undercard of Lucas Brown, Dillian Whyte.
Dillian Whyte, which is a great fight in itself.
It
I'm
is.
looking forward to that. I was having dinner with Lucas and Paul Dodds, who look after his affairs in the UK. And Lucas was really confident,
As he should be as well. You know, he's, albeit a WBA regular, but he's a former world title holder in his own right.
I mean, his view was, honestly, Dillian Whyte isn't very good. And he said, he just said he's not very good. And his honest view was, he's just an average fighter who's been lucky to who didn't beat Chisora, who had a lucky punch against Joshua and has looked unimpressive in his other fights. Now, you could argue that there's a valid point in that. I mean, for me, Dillian Whyte, I mean, I don't think he beat Derek, but the point is, I wouldn't say Dillian Whyte's not very good. I think Dillian Whyte's a good fighter. Whether he's world level is a different thing. But Lucas Brown doesn't think he's very good and thinks he's really average.
And what's interesting is that you could level the same argument against Lucas Brown within reason.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it such an intriguing fight. Is that they both. Certainly, Lucas carries power.
Yeah.
You know, like he looks like a nightclub bouncer. He punches like a nightclub bouncer.
That's what he was.
Yeah.
Do you know he never threw a punch till he was 30?
Did he not?
I'll tell you a story about Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown, at the age of 29, had not had a combat fight of any description.
He became an MMA fighter.
He was a bouncer on a door, and then decided to become MMA. So he went into MMA and found that he was no good on the ground. So he thought, I better start, I'll try something
just throw bombs.
And he boxed it. I think he made his professional debut at 32, 33.
Yeah.
Never before, no amateur experience, no unlicensed experience, just nothing.
Just brawling in clubs.
But do you know something? If he applied to the boxing board for a licence at 32, he would have been rejected because the board would not have allowed Lucas Brown, with no experience of anything, to become, I wouldn't imagine, to become a licensed boxer. And you could argue rightfully so.
He's the anomaly, isn't he?
Because most people at that level are not going to be very good.
Yeah.
So I was actually very impressed that he's done what he's got. And his argument is, I turned to boxing late in life, and therefore I'm still getting better because I'm learning more as I go along. So I think it's a great fight to watch, and I'm really looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. But I think the Frank and Callum fight, Callum is a top level amateur. He's had a very good pro career, Commonwealth champion. Frank has been more active. Frank has achieved more over the last 18, 24 months.
I think Frank wins this. I honestly think Frank wins. And then I know he's been calling out Hosea Burton and Anthony Yard. But we're going to be down to the fact that Anthony Yard, just going forward, Hosea Burton, that's a fight can be made. Anthony Yard, it's got to be under, as Frank Warren would have said in his interview, under our terms, our rules, which presumably their judges, everything else. The judges, not we'll say their judges, not their judges, but probably WBO judges who, we would want a level playing field. Yeah. And we believe that whether you offer Frank Buglioni, Mr. Warren, that we can give you more money for Anthony Yard. So we'll see whether you're prepared that whatever, we're pretty much saying to you, whatever you offer Frank, we're going to offer more. So we'll then see whether you want the fight or not. Yeah. But that's going to play in time. So we'll then see in reality whether you really want the fight.
Yeah. And you'd hope if that does come off, whether it be Burton or Yard, that it's got something meaningful attached to it. So
it's got to be
title eliminator.
It's got to be at that level. It's got to be something that means something.
Yeah. Not a WBO European.
We're not interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a trinket. It's
not interested in that. It's got to be something credible.
Yeah.
And if it isn't something credible, then we'll move on and we'll fight. We'll map out a different route.
Yeah.
It's not about those fights, but if those fights can be made, and on a fair basis, but what we're not going to do is be told this is what you're getting paid.
Yep.
You're going to fight on our channel for this money when Frank can earn more money on a different platform. We're not going to do that. But we will happily accommodate the Yard fight and we'll pay him more. So that's something down the line. So obviously Frank's got to overcome Callum Johnson first, but the Anthony Yard fight is still sitting there. But you've got to pay you've got to pay more money than we're prepared to pay if you want to stage it.
And it'll still be sat there in 18 months because Yard's not fighting anybody that's particularly threatening to him at present. So,
I mean, that stuff about we're going to fight people at this level, that level, it's not happened, has it?
No, I do enjoy watching Yard. It's not a slight at all.
He's actually a nice kid.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that what was announced was going to happen hasn't happened. And I believe that in life, you've got to manage expectations. Don't actually promise the world if you are going to deliver. No, you're not going to deliver that. You're far better off saying he's in his development stage, we're going to give him developing fights. Frank Buglioni would be a tough fight if we could make it, that would be great, but that's no problem. Not having holding a press conference about Frank Buglioni.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And Frank will fight anybody. And remember, this is the man that ducked Hosea Burton.
Yep.
So let's be real.
So we'll move on.
Let's move on. So we've dealt with Frank, and on the same card, it's the return of Del Boy.
Yes.
Del Boy is back after his abysmal showing in Monaco. And I manage him, and he'll tell you it was an abysmal
showing. So that was his European title fight.
Oh, he was shocking. He was absolutely terrible. The whole thing, from Don Charles not getting to Monaco, to the corner, telling him he was winning when he was losing, to his just poor performance.
Yeah.
He's far better than that. And I could honestly say I had a meeting with Derek last week. I have never ever seen him like this. He wants to right that wrong.
Yeah.
And and I'll tell you this, I had a conversation with Eddie Hearn, and we were offered the David Price fight, which we were happy to take. We then had the option of the Povetkin fight.
Yeah.
Or we had another option, which was a fight on the 24th of March, followed by another fight, which I thought was the right option. Now, we're not bothered about the money for this fight. Now, I'm telling you something. Derek always wants the big money. This fight isn't about money for him. He's really happy.
The redemption.
Yeah, he was. And so Eddie said, okay, then we'll give him a nice, easy opponent. Derek says, no. I want somebody that I want the best you can afford.
Yeah.
So and yet Derek is not getting the level of money that he's used to.
Yeah.
But he still wants to make a big statement. I would say this is the hungry Derek Chisora. Now, if he fails on March the 23rd, okay, I'll accept he's done.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see the Derek Chisora back to Dylan White fight and that level. And then I think a really good performance on March 24th puts him back in the picture again. He just needs to show that the Caballero was just one disastrous night.
Yeah.
And I think he can do that.
And presumably an opponent will come out in due course for that one?
Well, Eddie's got a way to come up with a list of 6 opponents. Those 6 opponents will be given to the team, and we will pick the toughest one that they can afford.
Yeah.
But one that we think is going to suit the style. What we don't want is a runner.
Yes. You don't want another Caballero.
You don't want somebody running, because that doesn't suit Derek anyway, but he doesn't want that. He wants somebody who's going to come to fight, not a runner.
Yeah. He wants a route.
Yeah, he wants a route. But if he fights a Caballero again, I believe that he would beat Caballero in the rematch. But as it stands today, we've gone already and said, bring us the best 6 you can afford within the budget. Remember though that these shows now are run slightly different than what you normally believe. Dillian Whyte owns rights to the show. So Dillian Whyte, because he's in that position, will have a control over the budget.
Yeah.
So therefore and that's respectful to Dillian, because that's fine, because he's earned that position. He did beat Derek, he got the decision. That's not his fault, the judges gave it to him, and he's in the position that he has this. Maybe one day we'll be in the position with Derek, or Frank. But as it stands, that's fine.
Yeah.
We've got to play where we are. But let's say if we get a couple of good results, we'll be in a little bit of a better negotiating position.
Excellent. So keep an eye out then for who ends up on the other side of the ring.
Fine. And finally, a fight I'm really looking forward to. The rematch of Waddy Camacho, Danny Cousins.
Yes.
Now, it's for the Southern Area title, but it's also a Commonwealth title eliminator with Luke Watkins in both of their sights.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great fight. It's going to be taking place in March. We're working on the show for that to be in, and I'm hoping that will be announced in 2 weeks' time. But it's a good show for both of them to be on, and I think it's a great fight. It's a great opportunity. Danny has resurrected his career amazingly. He did get beaten by Waddy before, but Danny has definitely improved since that point. So I think it's a great fight, and I think it's a fight that will do the event justice, and both of them deserve the opportunity to showcase their skills, and I think both of them are really looking forward to it, and it's going to be a great fight. But also it's a carrot. It's not just the Southern Area. It's now a Commonwealth eliminator. We're also working not on a fight. We're also working on Sam Smith.
Yep.
Female boxer.
Leeds based.
She's fighting at the beginning of March in Leeds. But I'm working on a major. I'm just starting work. This to be fair, that I haven't done it yet. I'm just starting work on a major fight for Sam.
Yeah. For
May, June, July time, and I'm hoping to start work on it tomorrow and have it concluded in 3 weeks. And it'll be a really exciting thing for Sam. So we're looking to actually break through with Sam.
Excellent.
So we'll have more on that maybe in 3 weeks time.
Excellent. I think for the Danny Cousins Waddy Camacho fight, I think their first meeting was probably the last outstanding performance from Waddy until he fought Jose Lopez, when I thought he was very good again. But in that meantime, I've said it to him myself as well, it won't be news to him, but I thought he was on the decline post that Danny Cousins fight.
He didn't fight well against Ozzy Jurgen.
Didn't fight well there.
No.
Actually, the Carl Wheeler fight was in between as well somewhere. But I thought he was on the decline, and then that Jose Lopez fight, I thought he came back up again. So Danny, on the other hand, has been on an upward trajectory. That fight against Spiros Dimitri, I thought he was outstanding. He kept Spiros at length, boxed him really, really well, wore him out. It was almost a shutout through that fight. So I think it's fascinating as to where they're both at right now with their careers, and it's a do or die fight for both of them. Really, it's
a brilliant fight, and it, although they were looking for bigger fights, Danny Cousins. The Luke Watkins situation is quite interesting as Commonwealth champion. He wanted to fight Danny Cousins, but he didn't want to fight Arthur Anikbel and didn't want to fight Waddy Camacho. I'm not interested in those fights, but went for Danny Cousins because they obviously saw Danny as the weakest link, and Danny said, "I'm not the weakest link. I'll have that fight."
Yeah.
But the Commonwealth Council would not approve Danny for the Commonwealth title until he's proved himself with a win at Southern Area level or above, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
But obviously that meant Luke Watkins wouldn't defend against Waddy Camacho, wouldn't defend against Arthur Anikbel, because they're trying to be selective on their fights, and probably because I believe he loses both of those fights, and there's probably not massive money in those fights. So what Luke will try and do is go for Matiaskin.
Yeah.
And I think Matiaskin's a good level, but I think Matiaskin wins that comfortably. But he'll go for the Matiaskin fight because it's bigger money, bigger show, and I think that's fair management. But in the meantime, we just have to manoeuvre either Danny into a position where he qualifies, or Waddy in a position where they have to fight him.
Yeah.
Or Arthur Anikbel, who can come through the back door and do it that way. So I think it's just how we're managing that particular scenario.
Yeah, I think Matty Askin's one of the most improved under the radar fighters over the last probably 2 years in Britain.
Totally agree.
I think he's fantastic talent.
And he now defends his British title against Stephen Simmons.
Yep.
David Hay won the purse bid for that.
Yep.
So that's taking place in March.
That'd be a fantastic fight. That
great fight.
I look forward to Stephen Simmons, known for the Waddy Camacho fight, and God, that was tooth and nail on both sides.
I think knowing the show that's going to be, I think the press conference could be quite close.
I think the changing rooms could be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Try and avoid putting those two together.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great fight, and I've got respect for Stephen Simmons as a fighter. I think he's a really, really good fighter. I think Matty Askin is at this particular moment in time the best in Britain.
Yeah.
Clearly. That's my opinion.
And then we'll move on. So you've got Brad Pauls and Diego Burton, Southern Area title eliminator. Brad Pauls I'm really high on. I think he's a great prospect, carries power, he's got great ability, he's quite calm in the ring. I think he's a real one to look out for. But
Diego's a big step up. Well, you know what Diego, how he fared against Mark and Mullender in those fights, and he knows this is his final chance. And obviously I manage both. What's your view on the fight?
I think Brad needs to make sure he doesn't cut any corners. I've seen some of his training and that, and he's in fantastic shape already. I think he needs to make sure he's switched on from the first belt, and I think probably more importantly than anything else, he needs to make sure he listens to Terry Stewart at the end of each round, because it's going to be high emotion for him, high drama. It's his biggest fight. He's still a young lad. Mm-hmm. I know he's highly intelligent and he's got it switched on, but he's going to need that guidance, I suspect, through the rounds, because Diego, he hasn't had that many fights, but he's an older guy who's had the more experience for those fights, and I think he'll take it in his step. Whereas for Brad, it's going to be the heart pounding, it's going to be everything. So
what chance do you give Diego?
I would say it's 70-30 maybe to Brad, but that's if you add emotion into it. I'd say it's maybe then 60-40. Because Brad's going to be, he's going to have a lot of nervous energy that he's burning off on that day. I think it's going to be his team around him could be equally as important as Brad.
That's fair. And also on that 10th, you've got Kay Prosper, Nathan Weiss.
Yes.
What do you think of that fight?
I think it's a great fight. I think, Kay, who we've had down a couple of weeks in a row, unfortunately we'll never see that footage. Changing trainers an interesting one. So he's gone from Terry Stewart to Xavier Miller. I think it'll be interesting to see whether he can adopt what Xavier wants him to do. Kay comes with a little bit of a reputation, maybe being a bit lazy coming into training camps and things, but you could see from him last week that there's a clear difference pre and post his loss to Raheem Noble. And I think he's matured from it, and I think he's probably a lot more disciplined with it. And I think Xavier will also instill that into him.
And what about Nathan?
I don't know Nathan that well.
He's coming down from welter to light welter. He's never fought this low before.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of the kind of sparring footage. Him and John Wayne Hibbert have been going at it down at West Ham. That West Ham gym, I think, would be brilliant for him. So you've got the returning Bradley Smith that he can get rounds in with. Ahara Davis has been down there. Ben Hall. I think that's a fantastic looking gym that Barry Smith's got going on down there. So I think Nathan will be getting some outstanding sparring, as Kate will be as well. So, I mean, I don't know Nathan well enough. I've only seen some of his fights over the past, but I think Kay needs to give it 100%. I know that's very cliche, but he needs to not cut any corners. Same as Brad, really, but I think Nathan will be a challenge for him.
Good fight, that is. And also on the card, Ollie Patterson has his first ever test. He's 8-0 at the moment, Ollie. Yeah. He's not fought anybody with a positive record. He's been building. Now he goes in with the kid for Southpaw, very strong Southpaw.
Yeah.
4-1. Who's, he's on our watch footage of, he's very, very tough. So, and he has power. So I think for the first time, the guy's got some stoppages on there, and he's been in with decent kids. So for Ollie Patterson, he's stepping up for a challenge belt, and he's now stepping up. So that's going to be interesting to see how Ollie performs at a higher level. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, Ollie, often when I watch him, I think there's always something else inside him that he doesn't let out on fight night. I don't know what it is. Like, it just seems like he's never quite got that spite that actually maybe somebody who comes to really have a tear up and get in his face and throw back, as you say, somebody with a positive record who's strong, I think could see a different side of Ollie Patterson that we haven't seen during his other 8 fights.
Yeah.
Technically sound, technically a brilliant boxer, but I think there's probably another 20% that needs to be unlocked
I think
somewhere.
that's very fair. Only he's coming along well, and he's 8-0. We're developing him, and I think. But this is the first little step up that he's had. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Ollie. Hopefully, he'll win the Challenge Belt title, and we can move on to great things throughout the rest of the year. And then finally on the third, we've got the Justin Menzies Robert Sanctifier. And if you haven't looked at all the video clips of it, that's on the third, so we've got some good fights here.
Yeah. See, Robert's making it personal. There's a little video clip where he said about you need to get off the fags, Justin. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. All right.
I think we could do a nice little head-to-head with them two before the fight. That'd be quite...
I mean, that'd be spicy. I
think we could do that. I think that might work. You can make sure there's no chairs here.
But no, I think that'd be an interesting... I mean, Justin, for anyone that hasn't seen Justin Menzies, I've not really seen that much of Robert in the past. Yeah. I've seen Justin a few times, and he's such a live wire because he's so squat and small at that weight. He just comes in and he throws uppercuts from awkward angles. He's a real handful for anyone, I suspect.
Robert's a very, very skillful boxer.
Yeah.
I mean, he went in on Sky, he lost in a round in his last fight before he signed with us, and he was just basically putting weight way above him for money. It's a one round. Anyway, let's leave it there. But now he wants to give it a go, and this is a fight that both fighters. It's a 50-50 fight on paper, in my opinion. Both fighters have an opportunity, and this fight launches a winner into a breakthrough, I think.
Yeah, I think Justin will be a handful for anyone. Certainly for 2 or 3 rounds while you try and figure out how to handle. He's like a little wasp. Yeah,
just buzzes around you. Yeah. So I think really I think it's a really, really good fight.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. So I think we started off with, on the 2 shows, the Goodwin boxing shows with the promoters that are involved. I think they've all put together some good cards, and they're monster cards, as you can see. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of action, some really exciting undercards on there, so that's good as well. So overall, we've got some fighters in big fights, we've got some shows that are going to be very, very good, and we've got more announcements to make in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so March 3rd and March 10th, and tickets can be purchased
on iboxingtickets.com.
Yeah.
And or from the boxers directly.
Yeah, excellent. So I think that's all the fights and all the fighters. So apologies to those that had sent in questions over the last couple of weeks. I've kept some, I've lost some. I'm not very good at the admin side of it, if I'm perfectly honest. So we've got some more that have come in today. So Yestin, it says 3rd time lucky. How does Steve stop his fighters from being stolen by bigger promoters?
Okay, right, it's very difficult. So when we say stolen, we're talking as a manager, not as a promoter, because I'm a manager. The shows are being promoted by various promoters. So none of the boxers I manage are promotionally attached to us.
So it's worth isolating the two.
We need to make that separately. As a manager, I sign a boxer, and those boxers can fight on anybody shows they like. Yeah. If they want to fight on an MTK show, they want to fight on a Mickey Elliott show.
So you had Mark Little and Adrian Martin on an MTK show
previously. We're quite comfortable. There is no restriction. Unlike a lot of other people who manage and promote, or associate with promoting, there is this restriction. For us, it's about the fighters fighting where it's best for them. How many fighters have we had on David Hay shows now?
Yeah. George Groves shows.
George Groves shows with the sales. So we're happy to do that. So the stealing is as a manager. Now, in reality, if I'm managing a fighter and I want to, and a promoter like Eddie Hearn wants them, what the procedure is, Eddie Hearn would ring me, or Paul Veddy or Neil Bowers will ring me up and say, Steve, we would like to sign Frank Buglioni, for example, is what happens. We then, as a manager, go and see the various promoters and decide on which promoter we want to sign with.
Yeah.
So in the world of what's real, this should not happen. However, certain promoters and people who work with certain promoters, what they do is they want to remove me as a manager. Why? Probably because I actually would get my fighter a better deal.
Yep.
And I would negotiate a better contract. So what they might then do is go whispering in the fighter's ear to say to him, I'll try and get out of that contract, like a footballer would at a football club who wants to get out. This is what you do to try and make life very difficult for your manager to get out of the contract.
Which, to be clear, that contravenes the board regulations.
Totally goes against board regulations. But then you've got to prove it, right? So you've then got to prove it and want to go through the process of doing it.
Yeah.
So in that instance, if the contract has term to run, they can't actually officially do it, but unofficially they can make life so difficult. So as the manager then, you can then defend your position and go to a board hearing. And hopefully the board would see for what it is and rule in your favour.
Yeah.
Now, that is what you do to defend your position.
So that presumably has to be a balance of whether you can be asked against what you're gaining from keeping them.
Yeah, and to be honest, where you are in your life. I had this happen before. It's had it happen to me before, and I've gone to the board and won a hearing.
Yeah.
I also had it happen to me at a time that I was going through a heart scare, which is, thank God, it's okay. So at that point, I had it happen to me again, and at that point, it wasn't worth. At that point in my life, I didn't want that on my case, so I just let it happen. But what I should have done is defended it. If I had defended it, I'd have won again.
Yeah. But other priorities.
But priorities at that point. But if it happens again, I will be defending my position. And now I've actually understood how it works further. So I will be. If anybody tries that again, then we will be defending the position. But I have won before, and we do a good job as a manager. And when I did win the case, the board ruled that I was doing a perfectly good job as a manager, and that they knew that the boxer had been coerced into doing it. Tapped up. So tapping up shouldn't happen in boxing, because if a promoter comes to me and offers a good deal for my boxer, I'm happy to do that deal.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. So why tap them up? There's no need to tap a boxer up.
Yeah.
Because you can literally come to the manager, say we'd like to sign that boxer, and then sit down reasonably and agree a fair deal for them.
Yeah.
But the fact that somebody would try and tap up a boxer is purely indicative of the fact that they're worried about the job I do. What was interesting, as a promoter that I do work with, I got a message the other day saying one of their people said Steve Goodwin is hard work.
Is that because you get a good deal for your fight?
Yeah. But that's okay.
You'd rather be hard work than a pushover.
Correct. Now the fact I'm called hard work, but we still work together, is great, because what they're saying is they respect the fact that I will go out there and get the right deals. I'm very easy to work with, but I'm not going to allow my fighter to have a bad contract.
Yeah.
That says something that they're tied into and doesn't give them something back. And that's what it is. So in terms of protecting yourself, it's very, very difficult if a boxer's getting tapped up, other than keep going the full process, keep defending your position, keep winning, and waiting for people to make a mistake where you can prove they've been tapped up. And in that instance, and that's really the way it has to be, we have to continue to defend our position when that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else explained?
Hopefully. Come back to us if not yesterday. Paul Oldtight. Question about a centre of excellence. As you see your stable grow, do you see there being a time when you would have a centre of excellence that you could send your boxers to?
The problem with a centre of excellence, similar to Matchrooms, Matchroom got their own.
Matchroom have hubs, don't they, essentially? So, I mean, they have Tony
Joe Gallagher up
Sims.
north, Tony Sims down south. And there's been boxers that I was told, and whether this is true or not, I was told by other trainers, that were told Matchroom will sign you as long as you go and get trained at
I've heard
Tony
the same
Sims.
thing.
You've heard the same thing?
Yeah.
You get trained at Tony Sims' gym. I don't think that's right. I think that a fighter should choose their trainer with guidance from the manager. And the problem with a centre of excellence is, how do I choose from the trainers I deal with? People like Xavier Miller, people like Rod Julian, people like Don Charles already has his own centre of excellence. Terry Stewart,
John Cole, Mark Massell,
etc. And I give you 10, 12 trainers, right, who are really capable. Josh Burnham is just starting out.
Yeah.
I can just list them all. If I've forgotten your name, I'm not being rude. It's just so. The point is, if I put a centre of excellence in Leighton Buzzard, North London, what happens? My boxer that's in South London, has he got trained for to the centre of excellence? Does he have to go with the trainer I tell him? So it doesn't really work. I prefer the system where we work with certain trainers that we think are very good and add something to our boxers, and we direct our boxers when our boxers need advice, we direct our boxers to these trainers. And as new trainers come in and we see our boxers trained by them, if that trainer is of sufficient, we think is good enough, then we will then say, yeah, it's somebody we think we would recommend and work with. And for boxers that are with trainers that we don't think are very good, they're going to stay with them, but we're not going to look to develop our relationship by sending boxers to them.
Yeah. So I mean, a prime example is Kay, who left Terry Stewart, was kind of on the free agency, and then you paired him up or introduced him to Xavier Miller, and then hopefully that kind of flourishes for the two of them.
See, Terry's a great trainer, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working anymore, distance and everything else. So Kay came to me. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, there are certain trainers that are good. Barry Smith, for example, is a great trainer, but he can't go with Barry Smith or even look at Barry Smith because he's fighting his fighter.
Yeah.
So Xavier was the person that I then thought was one of the ones to look at. So I said, have a look at Xavier. If that doesn't work out, then come back and we'll look at somebody else. But he's delighted with Xavier, so it's worked out.
And then you've got, say, Waddy Camacho, who you managed to get with Terry Coulter.
Because he was the right man for Waddy Camacho.
Yeah.
And Terry Coulter is a brilliant trainer. He's just not looking for any more fighters. He keeps telling me that Waddy's his last fighter before he retires. So I'm hoping not to change his mind, because I think Terry Coulter's a brilliant trainer. And so that's the thing. But yeah, these trainers are great trainers, and I think they all add. And what we've also got to remember is certain fighters are suited by different trainers, and it's my job psychologically to work out which fighter would be suited by which trainer.
Yeah. All right, last question was from Daniel Saint. I'm not sure you're going to answer this. Who have you enjoyed representing the least? Most effort, littlest reward, or just the biggest prick to work with?
Prince Patel.
I was going to say, I think I know the answer, but you're probably not going to say it. But
Prince Patel.
Yeah. So that was on the back of his debut. He did the IFL interview where he went on about being the sexiest man with the longest penis.
And he wanted the next fighter's girlfriend to watch him dead in the ring. Stuff like that. That's totally unacceptable. So you've got to be honest that is just totally unworkable with. There's other fighters that I've worked with who never fight and just talk about fighting and never fight, and they just become a lot of time for
the Facebook boxers.
And so we tend to sort of let them go under the radar. We don't make a big announcement. We don't want to be slating people off. The only time I've ever felt I've had to make a statement about releasing a boxer was Patel. But apart from that, with other fighters, we just tend to let them go, because if they haven't got the right ethic for us and the right thing, then and there becomes a point, is if they become too time consuming and it's not for the right reasons, then there's no point. I mean, Derek Chisora would be a time consuming boxer because there's a lot of things to do for Derek.
Yeah.
But he has the right work ethic at the end. He'll get in the ring with anybody. But if you're doing a lot of work for somebody who always pulls out with injury, who wants to complain about this and doesn't feel that and thinks the world's against him when he's not fighting, there becomes a point where you don't want to represent them.
Yeah.
But Prince Patel is by far and away the winner of that competition.
Hope that answers your question, Daniel, probably more thoroughly than I was anticipating. Right, so that's it. So you're off around the Caribbean for 2 weeks, courtesy of Floyd Mayweather, and
absolutely,
the money that you earned on the back of his win against Conor McGregor.
Thank you, Floyd, and thank you to everybody out there that backed Conor McGregor, because you
brought those odds in.
You basically helped fund our crew. So thank you very much.
So we'll be back in 3 weeks' time.
3 weeks' time, and we'll be talking then about the David Hay show on the 16th, because we'll be on the Tuesday before that. We'll be talking about how Jordan's fared, and the Arthur Nickbell fight as well.
Yes.
On the 17th. So we've got a great weekend of boxing the week after we get back. So we've got a lot to talk about on that Tuesday.
Excellent stuff. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back in 3 weeks, and take care. Excellent.
You can tell